lucky to have somebody that is from here to give us a little bit of the cultural enrichment of Glacier Bay 2. Give a warm welcome to Gary, our cultural interpreter.
Good afternoon. All right. My name is Gary M. Brown Sr. I am from Hoonah, Alaska. I am a direct descendant of Sit E.T. Kai, Glacier Bay, the bay in place of the glacier. I am 100% Tlingit, and that means my mom was 100%, my dad was 100%, unless they lied to me. And what we start off with is a little bit of history I'm going to be giving you about, but before we start, we always want to make sure that you know who we are. And so I will do my introduction, and then I'll interpret to you exactly what I said, and then we'll get on from there. And it goes, Kunish Tisa Shrikas, Taktain Tan Dutchkan Ayakat, Shendu Kadi Dutchkan, Kunish Tisa Kikash, Chukanadi Yaki Ayakat, Kuyades Irawadirawasa, Klikakinak Sakishas, Kunish Tisha Slahas, Take Way D, Si Klain Irawadirawasa, Klikakinak Saslahas, Yadoin Kunish Tish. Yeah, when I was real small, I had to do it in one breath. But I told you that I am the grandson of the Daktain Ton and the great-grandson of the Shimbikadi. Then I reached out to my great-great-grandfathers, the Dakanuku. And I told you that my Dakanuku, my great-grandparents, are the Deshiton. And then I went and thanked them for preserving the land and teaching it on to my father so that he can teach it on to me, and I teach it on to my 3 boys. I have 3 grown boys. They're ages 39, 35, and 30. And then I have 5 grandchildren, 3 granddaughters, or 3 grandboys and 3 granddaughters. And they very well are starting to understand the language. And then I told you, in order for you to call my father, you'd call him Kuyates. Kuyates Irawadirawasak Klikakanak Kishash. You address my father properly by addressing him as Kuyates. My father is also an Eagle Bear, as well as I'm an Eagle Bear. And as you can guess right now, it is against the law for us to marry our same tribe. And this is what my presentation is going to be about. But to finish off my introduction, I also told you that my mother's a takeaway D. My mother is also Eagle Bear. And I thanked her for giving me a breath of life, and I told you that my mother's Tlingit name is Si Klain. And my Tlingit name is Yadoin. Yadoin means he's about to go run around and do important things, and don't get that name. Yeah, that's the first name that was given to me at birth. And then as I got older and started presenting myself and learning the culture all over again, because when I was growing up, it was forbidden for us to speak it and learn a culture. My uncle looked at it as a very big surprise, and he liked what he saw, so he gave me his name, Taha Ishi. And his is the man down by the beach. And he likes it, and so I uphold my uncle with this name. And then the third name I hold on to is a name that's been given to me by my tribal leader. My tribal leader is my brother Dan. He's older than me. And then I hold on to he's the one that gives me that name, and then when we have a special purpose to give it up, and then I'll give that name up, and then I'll be given another name to hold on to. Because our Tlingit names are used over and over and over again. They never die. And so with that, we'll start off from the very beginning, and like you heard the park ranger say, that we're here since time immemorial. And what they say by here, they mentioned 4 tribes. The 4 tribes that are originally from Glacier Bay are the Chukanadi people, the Eagle Bear, that's my father's people, the Wishkiton, that's the Eagle Shark, the Klakwan Ton, that's the Eagle Wolf, and the duck-tailed ton, that's the raven seagull. Those are the 4 tribes that are called Hunakawu, meaning they were always here since time immemorial. And that's where our stories start. We, on the other hand, I am Tekwedi, I am a Kwan. That means my tribe dwelled in another place before we came back and lived amongst the people. So we come back and you come into a time where we are called Haktu. That was the first name that was given our village before we turned Glacier Bay. Haktu means living amongst the glacier. That means from the very beginning, we followed the Grand Pacific Glacier down towards its route. And as if we lived in longhouses. These longhouses are A-structured buildings with covered floors that will seat and hold and house 74 people. They'd be all one tribe. They'd be all inside. If the house gets too big, you build another house and you dedicate it and name it. Our story starts back when the glacier came and pushed us out. Sit iti gai, the bay in place to the glacier. We came in and with the A-frame houses, we go back and we go a little bit history with our young woman. This is where the story starts off, with the young woman and her grandmother. To back up, to elaborate a little bit more, when you became your teenagers, when you came about 13, 14 years old, you were turned over to your maternal uncle or your maternal aunt. And they brought you up into manhood, into womanhood. Because it was known back in that day that parents were always too soft on the children. And it was all about survival. So you're turned over to your uncle and your auntie to bring you up into manhood. And that's what was happening. And there's also a taboo for young women to see themselves turn into young women. And they have to have a structure all by themselves. This young lady's name was Costine. She was just about the age where she was coming into womanhood. So she was turned over to her maternal aunt and her grandmother. They take turns taking care of her inside a separate house. While she was in there turning into a woman, it took extra time. So she was getting kind of disgruntled in there. And then once she was in there, when she became a woman, she got very excited because she was going to go out and be amongst her people again and start playing. But right after she turned a woman, her menstrual cycle started. Another taboo. So confined to the house for another week. Very dissatisfied. The grandmothers came in, Shawa Sheik, came in and started taking care of Costine. And we believe everything has a spirit, no matter what. We know there is one creator, Kinanakawu, translated into God. But we believe everything has a spirit. If, for instance, if we're going to use a tree, we'll apologize to the tree and let it know exactly what we're going to use it for. And let it know that nothing's going to be wasted. We'll take the roots, we'll take everything. If we need just one plank out of the wood, what they'll do is they'll find a tree that's very high and sufficient enough. They'll notch it on the bottom, they'll pull it out, and they'll start the plank. And then, as they get up to the desired length, they'll cut it off, and then they'll move to the next tree to get that plank, so that all the trees remain alive. And that's the way it was with Costine was in there, and the grandmother gave her a piece of dry fish. This is beef, fish jerky. And she got it, and she looked at the glacier, and she started calling it like a dog. Keik is dog. Hagu is here. Guk is here. That's what she is saying. Guk, hagu, keik, hagu. Telling her to hurry up. And she threw the piece of dry fish out. When she threw the piece of dry fish out, landed on the ground, It angered the glacier. We had a great big surface earthquake. Everybody looked up and they can see the Grand Pacific Glacier start advancing at a rapid pace. And so they had a meeting, real fast meeting. Are we going to stay in the land and perish? Or are we going to evacuate? They chose to evacuate naturally. But Costine came up and admitted her guilt. I was the one that angered the glacier. I am the one that should be sacrificed to the glacier, since it's my wrongdoing. Shawashik stepped up to grandmother. No, you will not sacrifice yourself to the glacier. I will. It was my responsibility to take care of you, so I will sacrifice myself to the glacier. You're young and fertile. You can help the tribe. I'm old, feeble, not much help to the tribe anymore. So it was at that time Shawashik sacrificed to the glacier, the grandmother. So the men folk took her up as far as the glacier as they could, laid out all her blankets, made her as comfortable as possible to accept her fate. They went back into the village, rapidly grabbed whatever they could to start evacuating Glacier Bay, Sit Iti. A great rumble came up again. They looked up and they can see the glacier start speed up, and it started advancing as fast as a dog can run. And this is not just a fable. This has been happening all over the world with glaciers like Sit claim. They advance at a very rapid pace and then they slow down. But what happened here is when the people were outside at the mouth of the Glacier Bay, the 4 tribal leaders composed 4 songs, mourning songs that we're going to lose our village. Will I ever see my son, my land again? Will I ever see my house again? Will I ever be able to return to my homeland? And these are 4 mourning songs that we still use today. They're over 250 years since we got pushed out of Glacier Bay. Then they looked up and they can see the glacier overturning Shawashik. As it went over her, the glacier slowed down to a crawl. Gave them ample enough time to go in, send a few more extra men in, get whatever they could to come back out. And when the glacier started advancing again, it pushed all the way to almost across Icy Strait to Point Adolphus. So our people had to relocate. My father's people, the Chukinadis, went right across Icy Strait into a place called Spaskai. The Klakwantan people, the Wolf people, went further down north into a place called Groundhog Bay. The Wishkiton, the Shark people, went around the corner here into Excursion Inlet. The ice advanced so far over to Icy Straits that the Dane people were coming from a fish camp in Latuya Bay, got stuck on the outside ocean side. So they remained out in the ocean until the ice receded, then they came back home. That was a very long wait. And then after the Chukinadis went over and they established themselves into a place called Spaskai, they found out that this place was infested with bears. That means that the ABC Islands, Admiralty, Baranof, and Chickasaw are the highest concentration of brown bears in the world. And we landed on Chickasaw Island in Spaskai. Anybody that dwelled outside of the village, the bears were getting them and killing them. One day, we had a Chukinady gentleman, went out hunting, went around the corner into Kootskai, Port Frederick, which we call Brown Bear Bay. That's where Huna is today, right inside the bay, protected from the north wind. And then after that, everybody, all the tribes heard about where Huna was and reestablished themselves in the community. Then once they got inside the community, they sent archaeologists, scientists, geologists, everybody to dig up the sites to find out how we were living. They found some human remains in Groundhog Bay through the Klakwantan people. and they went out and got it carbon dated. Those results came back to be 12,000 years old. Later on, just a couple months ago, they found some more artifacts down in Ketchikan area where our people come from to take away these, and that in a place called Unuk. On inside the, you look it up, it's U-N-U-K, Unuk. In reality, it's supposed to be Unuk. They can't say Unuk, so they put it Unuk. And it translates into a place of beautiful dreams. And we got pushed out of there through homesteading. We didn't have the piece of paper, so we had to leave that place. But getting back into the story, Costine was in there. Costine ended up in there. And then inside Huna, when the bears were pulling them off, they reestablished in Huna. And the Chukinades, my father's people, ended up with their house too big already. So they had to build a second house, dedicate it and rename it. And it's a 3-day ceremony. So they go to the medicine man goes into like a 3-day trance, a fast, and comes up with a name. When he came out of the fast, they asked him what they're gonna name the house. And he told them Coots Hit. Coots is brown bear, Hit is house. Brown bear house. Everybody got an uproar. Why do we need to make peace with the war? Why do we need to honor the bears when they're killing our people off? And the medicine man told them that he spoke. So they dedicated the house, went through all the ceremonies. The very next day, after everything was all finished, they found a deer carcass right at the entrance of the tribal house. Nobody knew where it came from. The medicine man came out and examined it, turned around and told them, this is a gift from the bears for us naming it Coots Hit. And he also told them that the war with the bears is over. Ever since then, believe it or not, 154 years ago, we established in Huna in 1946, incorporated, but in 1754 is when we landed in Huna. Ever since then, we haven't had a single fatality on the island. And then we go on. 1944, June 14th, after we rebuilt Huna, and everybody's in there, tragedy strikes again, this time with fire. Our village burns completely down to a crisp. 2 weeks before June 14th come around, over an excursion inlet, the Army had a barracks there. And they shipped all their fuel in on a barge in 55-gallon drums. One of their barges went aground, and the people went out to try to help them salvage all the fuel. And when they turned it and got them all back and tried to return it to them, the Army said, we can't take it. You have salvage rights. June 14th, 1944, they had only one outboard in the entire village, with about 500 to 1,000 gallons of gasoline that they didn't know what to do with, so they took it back to the village and stored it around their house. Now you can see where this is going. When the young gentlemen came in with some sockeye on June 14th, they wanted to preserve it. That means to smoke it. And when they smoke it, at that time, they took all the smokehouses away, so we couldn't smoke our fish regularly. They had to makeshift a smokehouse on a pilot. All our houses were on a beachside. Not all of them, half of them. The only thing separated was the boardwalk and then the houses again. So they had 12 hours because every 6 hours there's a tide change to dry this fish. They put the canvas up, and on the westerly wind it worked itself free and eventually caught fire and started the house on fire. The young gentleman walking by knew the old lady was inside the house, went in and told her that you need to get out of the house, your house is on fire. It was evening time, everybody was at the movie hall watching a Doris Day movie. And they ran over there and yelled out fire. And by the time Anybody got out of the movie building, they heard the first explosion. The first 55-gallon drums of gasoline exploded and started a chain reaction. My mom was 6 years old at the time, said it looked like the army was bombing Huna. And there's only 3 buildings on the north side of Huna that survived the entire fire. Everything was burned right down to the ground. And we lucked out in a sense because when the gentlemen brought down the Sakai, they sent a fish camp over to excursion with all our children. So we didn't have any fatalities with our children. The only fatality he had was one fatality. And it wasn't by the fire itself. It was by choice. And I'll tell you how. This Duckdale town man, John K. Smith, was in there and he became a caretaker for our A'uwu. Our A'uwu is our precious treasure. It's like the vest I'm wearing. With the eagle and the raven design, this is my identity. This is the work vest. So this just shows you that the eagle and raven are all one people. On my regular vest, I'd have a bear design on it because I'm Eagle Bear. And then when you get in there, they come in and they'll call out your name. But once they get in there, I'm sorry, I'm losing my chain of thought. I've been on this for quite some time now. Yeah, but once they get in there, they came in there, and they told him to guard it with your life. And he took it to heart. He knew that all the regalia and all the A'u was going to be destroyed in the family, so he took it upon himself to go with it. That was the only fatality that we had in Huna. And then the army was on its way out to rebuild Guam. Was that during the war, 1944. They had a ship of load of wood that was going over. They heard Huna was burning down, got diverted back, and rebuilt Huna in 2 years with 88 units. After those 88 units were built, they each cost $3,500. But they lost everything in fire, so they couldn't pay that money. So the territorial government and the missionaries took the property rights so they could stay in their houses. But once we became a state, in 1959, all the property rights got returned back to the rightful owner. So we went in there, and each house is $3,500, and then we went through the ice, went through the fire, and then we're still here. We're still in Huna, Alaska. Glacier Bay is our ancestral hometown. Huna became our second home that we learned to love. We're still trying to get our ties into Glacier Bay, and we're the only tribe that's affiliated with the National Park Service throughout the whole United States. You will never find a partnership like this anyplace else in a National Park Service, because we are very resilient people. We know that this is our ancestral hometown, and then we kept on riding to get in here. And our elders knew that it's going to take education to get us on the map and get us going again. So when the missionaries came in and the tribal government, they tried to convert us from our ways into Christianity. That meant to take everything away. Culture, language, everything. When my dad was 4 years old, they came in, picked him out of the house, and put him in a boarding school. My mom was only 3 years old. Took her out of the house, put her in a boarding school. They were sent home probably about once a year. In order for my dad to get out of the boarding school, he joined the military at 13 years old. He got the honorable discharge at 18 years old when he became a master sergeant. They found out that he could not swim, and so they gave him honorable discharge and sent him home. Where is home? It wasn't in Huna, because on his application it had the boarding school address. So they sent him back to the boarding school. He gets back into the boarding schools and telling me I fulfilled my education, I fulfilled my duty. They said I can go home. The missionaries and tribal government, or territorial government, looked at them and told them, okay, you're going home, but you're not going home empty-handed. What they meant is he was going to take a wife. We have two moieties in our clan, the eagle and the raven. The eagle, like myself, has to marry the raven, or the raven has to marry the eagle. And that has been set up for thousands of years so that we keep our bloodline clean. That's so we don't get tainted, our blood don't get tainted. When they said they're going to send my dad home, they meant that he's going to take an eagle wife. He's eagle already. Not knowing the consequences, that's what they did. They put the eagle men on one side, the eagle woman on the next side, not knowing who they're going to marry, brought them up, married them, and sent them home. We were very lucky that we did not come out deformed. A lot of families came out deformed when they got sent home. And so when we got home, we were looked and frowned upon because we were double eagles. When you are a double eagle, you are considered to be walking in limbo. You do not have a soul. You're unbalanced. They got home. My mom and dad, tribal government, tribal law came down, took my dad out, put him in tribal court, had my mom sit down on the airplane float for the whole day until they tried to figure out what they're going to do with my dad. They brought him into tribal government. They said, we know that you went in to get your education to represent the people, but do you know what you did? He grew up in a boarding school. He had no idea what he did. My mom grew up in a boarding school. She didn't know what he was doing. To get out of the boarding school, they married each other and learned and fell in love. And so inside tribal court, they're about to shun him out of town. When my grandpa Jimmy Young, the tribal leader, came in, they said, no. We picked Archie Brown, my dad's name, out at a very young age to come back and represent the people. You will leave Archie Brown alone, and you will leave his wife alone. And that's what they did. They left us alone. All the other families, that the eagle and raven, were telling all their children not to play with us because we were double eagles. So I never had a friend until around the second grade. And so that made us very mean because we're always defending ourselves. And then what happened was very surprising to me and everybody else, because who do we have to rely on besides family? So our family got very strong. I have a very large family. I have 7 brothers, 5 sisters, 1 adopted sister. When my mom was all done growing us up, my dad died, and that balanced her out. She could start, and that's how we found out why we couldn't talk to anybody or why everybody was treating that way. Even my mom and dad was not allowed to tell us what was happening. And after my dad died, we finally learned the truth. And then we got all the paperwork, and so this is why the story's coming out. We got all the proof. We got all the paperwork. It's time to let the story out. So that's what we're doing. We're letting the story out, and we're trying to get things all right. The way that we got balanced out after my dad died is that they reached back to the Dakanuku. Our great-great-grandfathers, before all this happened, came in and they balanced the family out, eagle and raven. What they did with us, making us double eagles, my dad's a Chukanidi eagle bear, my mom's a Tekwadi eagle bear. So when they married my mom and dad off, in reality, we became grandfathers to ourselves. And I'll tell you how that happened. It's because you get opposite tribe and everything, and then you go down into your family history. Your great-grandfather is a takeaway, your great-great-great-grandfather. Now, we're double equals and we come out, and our great-grandfather's the same tribe. How can that be? It cannot be. It wasn't supposed to be, but it happened. And as we got older, and our family got stronger, grandmother stepped in and saved us. And I mean literally saved us. She came in and taught us our language, some of it, and our culture was very important, so she installed it in us. A lot of my peers didn't have this. They grew up knowing nothing about this. What my grandmother would do is back in the 60s and 70s when we were growing up, we had one generator in the town that could not run 24/7. And they shut off the generator at night and turn it on in the morning. And so, in the evening time, my grandma would come out, have my uncles and my dad put blankets on cardboard papers. And we'd pin them up against the windows so the house looks completely dark. Then she'd grab a lantern, put it up right on the ceiling, have us all around her. And she'd tell us our history, tell us our culture, tell us our language. And then, before we went to sleep, a stern warning: don't say anything the next day. Don't talk Tlingit. Don't tell anything about the history. Keep it quiet. Then in the early 70s, the missionaries came out. Believe it or not, they came out and made an apology. And that lifted up everything that we can start teaching our language again. And we didn't have to do it in secret anymore. So we went and we told our grandparents, we told our parents that we didn't have to hide it anymore. And they still would not bring it out in open. It was installed in their minds that far that they would not bring it out in open. It took some time to bring it out in open. We've been teaching it in our schools for 27 years now. And it's now taught inside our universities. Our language is on a rebound, but with us, it took a long time. We're balanced out. We're finally balanced out. We couldn't grieve for Dad, but we can grieve for Mom. When my mom passed, we finally got to grieve. And so, it was our Takanuku, the in-laws, the opposite tribe that came and lifted us up. They came in, the opposite tribe when my mom passed, come in, and this is how it's done in reality. They come in and they do everything possible for you, make you as comfortable as possible until you put Mom to rest. We live in a little village of 825 people. We don't have a mortuary in there. And so all the in-laws make all the arrangements to get the grave diggers, the pallbearers, to make everything. To go as far as coming into your house, cleaning for you and cooking for you to make you comfortable. And after that, we'll go in and we'll have our church service before we have our culture service. Inside our church service, we have a regular church service like every place else. We have 60 denominations in Hunter. We have the Russian Orthodox, Presbyterian, Salvation Army, Pentecost, Catholic, and the Assembly of God for 825 people. And we became an incorporated city in 1946, and we inherited 5 cops. You don't get any crime here. Those guys keep the bears out of the village. And when they came in there, the in-laws will come in there, and after Mom, after we do our church service, we have our regular culture service. That means the Ravens finally got up and they can uphold us. They finally recognized us as Clinkets. So they can uphold us. They came in and upholded us. And they have all their regalia out. This is all their blankets and all their apu. This is the history on the blankets that tell how they got here or where they dwelled from. And the Eagles will do the same thing. They'll have their regalia on the other side. And since we are the Green family, the Eagles, It's the ravens that get up and uphold us first. They'll get up and they'll bring their blankets out. They'll show us their history. They'll tell us all about it. This is we're oral history people. This is how we kept our history together. And then they tell us and they'll tell us we not only bring our blankets out for our history, but we want to uphold you. We want to wrap it around you and hold you tight so that you don't feel like a piece of driftwood in a wide open ocean. Then the other ravens will get up and they'll do the same thing with their blankets. And they say, we too bring our history out in our blankets, not only to uphold you, but we want to imitate that. We're going to cover it with the floor. So that as you shed tears for your mom, it never hits the floor. Then they'll bring out their shagiyats. These are ceremonial hats. And they'll imitate that, they put it above your head. We protect you. We bring our hats out to protect you. Any more bad luck falls and tries to hit upon you, dissipate off the hat. Nothing bad will happen while you put mom away. When they're all done with their blankets and comforter, they'll call 2 eagles out of the crowd to record what we call a silent flower. A silent flower is a cash donation toward funeral expense. And it's recorded. And while they're counting their money up and telling us how much they got out of the silent flower, the eagles will come up and to balance things out, we'll thank the ravens for upholding us in order that the ravens presented themselves. Then they'll bring their blankets out and they'll do their history. And they'll look at us, even though we're brothers and sisters in tribal life. Don't be hesitant to call upon us. We'll be there for you. If there's anything that you need or anything that you want, tell us and we'll accommodate you. And this is what they'll do. And then as a grieving family, we'll get up and thank the eagles first because we're their family, brothers and sisters. And we'll thank our in-laws, the ravens, for bringing us, upholding us. And then we'll lay them off the rest. 40 days after, we have a potlatch. This is the only potlatch that you're going to see in our history. And it's not intact in the history. What you've been reading about as a potlatch is called a kaweeks. We'll get to that. But the potlatch that we have for mom is taken out of the Bible for the Last Supper. 40 days after, we invite everybody, because it's not cultivated in the community, to come out and spend one last meal with mom before she descends up into heaven. And out of the community of 825, we served almost 400 people. And then we wait 1 year or 2 years for what we call a kaweeks. Kaweeks means invite. We're going to invite all the ravens back for upholding us, and we're going to pay them back with our generosity and our gifts. It's going to last 24 hours. You can be fed 5 times. It's all about culture and respect, so you're not going to see any drugs or any alcohol in the facility. And you're going to have nothing but fun. All the guests are going to be ravens because they upheld us. And they're going to each bring a big old box. In a 24-hour period, that box will accumulate with a lot of gifts that they will be able to take home. When we first get in there, we'll be wearing our regalia and our identity. And the commentator will be telling us when to get ready. We're titled people. When they say the tide is out, that means that all our guests are not here yet. When the tide is in, the guest is here. Time to start our ceremony. When the tide was in, we put our regalia on. Our in-laws came and put 2 black marks on their cheeks because we did 2 years to uphold my mom's party because we knew it was going to be a big one. The in-laws will come in. We'll bring in the 4 morning suns that were composed when the ice pushed out the 4 major tribes out of Glacier Bay. And then it'll be answered because we need a balance that will take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. And then they wipe the tears away. And as they wipe the tears away, that's the time that the circle of life starts all over again. That means it's time to let mom rest. And as a Tlingit person, you're never to be without a mother or father. So this is where you're going to adopt your new mom. My new mom is my Aunt Charlotte, my mom's sister. And my mom arranged it before she passed. And my new dad, when he passed, is my dad's doctor. We still have ties with him today. You are never to be alone as a Tlingit person. You're never to be without a mother and father. And this is how we do it inside our ceremonies. When we started, everybody will start dancing and everything. And you start accumulating because the first meal will be out. Remember, you're going to eat 5 times in a 24-hour period. And if you turn anything away, that's disrespectful. So get ready to eat. And don't put you up there, and everything will start. You start dancing, and then halfway through the party is where we have our adoption period. This is where anybody that's married outside of the tribe, this is the time to balance yourself. All 3 of my boys married outside the tribe. Every time they came home, Dad dancing with this magnificent girl all night. Great. Raven? Eagle. Sorry, son. They got tired of that. And when they moved over to Juneau, my oldest son married a girl from Oregon. No questions asked. My second son, Gary Jr., married a girl from Wisconsin. My youngest boy, Matthew, married a girl from Hawaii. So all our parties are done in the fall time, and this is the time to balance out their family. So it's my responsibility to get them adopted into a Raven tribe because my sons are Eagles. And then when they're Ravens, they balance the family out. And how they do is their adoption is the 3rd name that I'm holding on, Shatuchik. This is the time that the grandmother will come up and ask the name and the meaning. If it fits that person, they'll give it to them. And if you don't give it to them, you're only going to let them use it because their names are used over and over again. And before we adopt them, I got to let you know that you're going to spend 2 weeks with Grandma. You're going to come out real humble. Grandma don't play. What she'll do at this time is she'll teach you all the ways of a Tlingit lady or a Tlingit person and all our customs and ask you if you're going to accept them. And if you accept them, that's good. That's good enough for her. And then when they get the name, they'll come and grab it. And they'll put that person, he or she, in front of the building with under 300 guests. And they'll put a $100 bill on their forehead. And they'll pronounce their Tlingit name 3 times. Like my name is Yadawayne. They'll say Yadawayne and the crowd repeats Yadawayne 3 times. After that, that's it. You're adopted. No signing papers, no giving blood, no taking fingerprints. Now the time the fun starts. If they don't have suitable regalia, we'll find regalia for them. And they put the dance in front of 300 people. And then we'll have fun with them some more. Nope, that's not the way it's done. You have to do it again. And after that, my grandchildren will be balanced out. And then when I pass away, they'll be able to put me away properly the way it was supposed to be done. This has been a long, grueling process. I'm 59 years old, and this has just taken that long to get the story out. Almost 60 years. Took us that long to accumulate all the papers. Everything's all presented. Now we can burn it out without any distinction or anything like that. When our grandparents were growing up, they knew exactly that it took education to make our people survive. And that's what they did. 60% of our teachers are local kids that went out, got their education, and came back to teach in Huna. Because we cannot teach our Tlingit language without the certificate. So, picked out the people, sent them in, got to teach our language in school. Our CEO, our Chief Executive Officer for our corporation, Native Corporation, is a graduate from Stanford, a valedictorian, and he's only 40 years old. My family, my oldest sister has got her doctor's degree and master's degree in Native culture arts. Same thing with my older brother. My tribal leader, my older brother is just only 13 months older than I am, has his teaching certificate in middle school. I was a paraprofessional for 9 years as a special education. So we know that this has come out, and we knew education was our key, so this is what our elders did, which was very, very profitable for our city. We became incorporated in 1946, and then we became, that means that we became a first-class city, and we gave up most of our native rights. So we pay for all the license and permits just like everybody else. The only thing that we get is health care. And health care is not that great. As soon as the teachers practice on, or the doctors practice on you, they go and they start their own practice up in another location. Which might be a good thing at sometimes, because when they come in hungry like that, they're looking to further their education a lot faster. And we look at this and we're still surviving. Now we're looking at, we're into the tourism business and native culture arts. Inside Huna, we have, we call Icy Strait Point. And it's a tourism place now. It used to be fishing, then lumber, now tourism. In 2004, we had 16 ships that came to our port. This year, 80 ships. Huna has been a focal point for a lot of communities throughout Southeast Alaska. When the missionaries came in, they found out how resilient we are. A lot of towns weren't that fortunate. They gave up. There's one community that laid out all their regalia, all their artifacts, everything, and burned it down to a crisp. And they had to come back and reteach and relearn all the culture from Huna. We have a workshop every year so that we can keep this key point. So we've been around for quite some time, very resilient. We always want to make sure that you come in here and visit us, our ancestor hometown, and we give you a little bit of history on how we got here and how we're going to remain here. When I came aboard, I told you, Suye Ikwasitin Aktuosiku Akyahan. I'm very glad to see you, my friend, you honorable people. We don't have a hello, or we don't have a goodbye in our language. This is how we greet each other. So with that, I would like to say, Suye Ikwasitin Aktuosiku Akyahan Akskuni. Until I meet you again, I'll be glad to lay my eyes upon you, my friend, you honorable people. Thank you for lending your ear to me. Thank you for coming on to Glacier Bay. If you did not come to Glacier Bay, I wouldn't be here. And if I wasn't here, I'd be very happy. I'm very unhappy for not being in my ancestor hometown. Thank you again, Kunish Cheese. Like I said, Apunupugao is our most important word in our language. It means thank you. And you'll find thank you inside our songs, our dances, our speeches, everything. And it's all about respect. And our elders are the most precious assets in our community. We'll do anything to hold them in our community. We'll hunt for them, we'll fish for them, we'll go for anything that they need so that they remain in the community. They hold our culture, they hold our language, and they hold our history, especially the grandmothers. The women and the men had equal value throughout our whole entire history. The women in Alaska, the Tlingits, were voting before the United States. Women started voting. And the clan leader could be a woman. It's a matter of how well she would present herself, hold that position, and try to get away stay away from conflicts that would involve other tribes. So I want to thank you again for coming along and giving me your ear and give you a small little lesson that our people have went through. And I want to thank you for coming. Thank you again for lending your ears, and thank you.